So, today we are jumping into a huge idea. You've probably heard it before, this claim that our thoughts have the power to control our physical health. We're going to break down the science behind it and really see what's going on inside our minds and bodies. All right, let's kick things off with this quote right here. It's a really powerful and honestly super popular idea that our thoughts are the main cause of almost all of our illnesses. I mean, think about that. It suggests we have this incredible amount of control over our own health just by managing what goes on in our heads. Now, this is a revolutionary claim, right? It could totally change everything we think about healthcare. But with any idea this big, you gotta ask the question, what does the evidence actually say? So let's follow that trail. Okay, first up, we're gonna follow the paper trail. Let's take a closer look at the sources behind this big claim. And right out of the gate, we hit a snag. The claim mentions a study by the American Medical Association, the AMA. Well, turns out the study was actually done by university researchers, not the AMA. But here's the real kicker. That 75% number, it's just not in the paper at all. It's nowhere to be found. Okay, and the trail gets even murkier. The claim says only 5% of cancer and heart disease come from hereditary factors. But if you look at the source from 2002, it says something much more specific. It's talking about less than 5% coming from highly penetrant mutations, a very specific type of gene. It's not talking about all hereditary factors. It's like saying a tiny leak in a pipe is the same as the entire water main breaking. The meaning gets completely twisted. And this is maybe the most important part. Look at the dates. The sources being used here are from 1979-2002. Now, that might not sound that old, but in the world of genetics, it's practically ancient history. See, around 2005, everything changed with the start of the GWAS era. These are genome-wide association studies, and they totally revolutionized our understanding of how genes are linked to disease. Using data from before that is, well, it's like using a map from before Columbus to navigate the globe today. So when you put it all together, you start to see a pattern, right? We've got misinterpreted studies, seriously outdated research, even biased websites being cited as fact. And on top of all that, a huge blind spot for global health data and a misrepresentation of how genetics really work. It's not looking good for the original claim. And this slide really drives home what's being missed. I mean, when you look at the whole world, the things that really determine whether people get sick aren't their thoughts. It's stuff like a lack of sanitation. It's vaccine-preventable diseases that kill millions of kids every year. And the single biggest driver of the global disease burden, it's poverty. That's a reality that this mind over matter idea seems to completely overlook. Okay, so if that original claim is shaky, where do we go from here? Let's shift gears. We're now going to look at evidence-based mind management. What does established psychological science actually offer us? So if our thoughts aren't the single cause of all illness, what are the tools that are actually proven to help us manage our minds? Let's explore a couple of the heavy hitters that are backed by tons of research. First up, you've probably heard of this one, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. This is one of the most rigorously tested tools in the entire field of psychology. You can think of it like a personal trainer for your brain. It helps you learn to spot those unhelpful or destructive thought patterns, the ones that say, I'm going to fail, or everyone thinks I'm an idiot, and then actively challenge them and change them into something more helpful. And then there's another really powerful approach called acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT. Now, ACT takes a slightly different angle. Instead of trying to change or fight your difficult thoughts, it teaches you to just accept them, to let them be there without judgment while you focus on taking actions that really matter to you, actions that line up with your personal values. It's less about stopping the storm and more about learning to dance in the rain. So if we put them side by side, it's a really interesting contrast. With CBT, the goal is to change your thoughts. You challenge them, you reframe them. With ACT, the goal is to accept your thoughts. You use mindfulness and focus on your values. Two different paths, but both are incredibly powerful, evidence-based ways to get to a better place. But wait, it's not all just about psychology and conscious thought. There's another massive piece of this puzzle, something that works behind the scenes, our biology. Let's talk about your body's master clock, a powerful force that's way beyond what you're consciously thinking. So, check this out. A recent UK Biobank study looked at over 400,000 people. That is a massive number of participants. And they found a really powerful link between mood, sleep, and something you might not even think about, exposure to daylight. And the results were crystal clear. The more time people spent in outdoor light, the better off they were. They found it easier to get up in the morning, they felt tired less often, they had fewer symptoms of insomnia, and, you guessed it, they had better mood outcomes. We're not talking about a tiny little effect here. This is a really big deal. Okay, but why? Why does something as simple as sunlight have such a powerful effect on us? I mean, what's actually happening inside our brains and our bodies that makes this work? This is where it gets really fascinating. Well, the answer is in this tiny little region in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Let's just call it the SCN. You can think of it as your body's master clock. It's connected directly to your eyes, and when daylight hits them, it sends a signal to the SCN, which then tells every other clock in your body what time it is. It's what controls our 24-hour circadian rhythms. And we know this isn't just a random correlation. There's real causation here. In a recent study, researchers were able to specifically disrupt the SCN in mice. And what happened? The animals started showing anxiety and depression-like behaviors. So that establishes a powerful direct link. When the master clock is off, our mood can go off the rails too. All right, so let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. We've talked about a lot. What does it all mean when you put it together? It's time for a more holistic view of well-being. And here's the key takeaway, the main point of all this. True well-being is not a single cause, single solution issue. It's just not that simple. Our thoughts are absolutely a piece of the puzzle, a very important piece for sure, but they are not the whole puzzle. So a much more accurate and helpful way to look at this is through what we can call the 3 pillars of well-being. First, you've got psychology, the tools we use to manage our minds, like CBT and ACT. Then you've got biology, our internal clocks, our genetics, and finally, our environment, things like access to sanitation, healthcare, and yes, even just getting enough sunlight. And that's why this quote is so perfect. You're not just sitting in a circle venting, you're part of something bigger. Ultimately, the journey to well-being isn't about finding that one magic bullet. It's about realizing you're part of a bigger system, your own mind, body, and environment, and that every little push helps the whole thing move forward. So that leaves us with one final and I think really important question to think about. How can you support your entire system, your mind, your body, and your environment starting today? What's one small step you can take?